Okay. Uh, so good morning, everyone. This is 10th lecture of this knowledge series, and the first lecture of architecture segment. And today we have a guest speaker who is a well-known architect Pranav Desai. Architect Pranav Desai is a principal architect of IIG Consultant and Atul Desai Consultant. His firm is active in all areas of practice, and this is one of the award-winning architectural firm. Architect Pranav Desai has done his architecture from Sir JJ School of Architecture, and he worked with SOM's San Francisco's office on various projects from housing to airports. Over last 25 years, he has contributed to the design in real estate communities and where variety of contexts. His expertise in a master planning, large scale residential development, workplace design, and institutional buildings. Few of his key projects are master plan for Ranju town, master plan for Thane town center, Raheja, uh, Vivaria, Tata Mantra, Mindspace at Malad, Metro Cinema, Whistling Wood Film Institute. So, very warm welcome, sir. And students are eagerly waiting to know your experience in tall building projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Parikshit.
Thank you. Thank you. Sir.
Can I just share my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, if you want to switch off your video, you can actually, so that bandwidth won't be an issue.
Not do that.
As per your. Yes.
How you do that actually?
Just there is one icon next to speaker of video.
This one? No, share.
Just before 2 lectures of share screen. It's okay, sir. I mean, bandwidth is not an issue. Yeah. It's okay, sir. You can continue.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Thank you, IES College, for having me here. Thank you, Anuja. Thank you, Gavrish. And thank you to CTBUH for organizing this series of lecture for IES. The topic today is tall buildings, contextual analysis and architectural design. How the definition of tall buildings basically is different, from institute to institute. Buildings higher than 50 meters are termed as tall buildings. In certain cases, like buildings higher than 100 meters are termed as skyscrapers. But as far as the CTBUH of buildings, taller building is anything which is greater than 300 meters is considered tall. Less than 300 meters is considered tall. Greater than 300 is super tall, and greater than 600 meter is mega tall. But again, as I said, the definitions basically vary from state to state, agency to agencies, even from countries to countries. As far as our current DCR is concerned, the 2034, any building which is above 70 meters is considered as a high-rise building. And this they are going to basically increase to 120 meters in near time. Now, what is the difference between a building which is a high rise and a low rise? Now, those are basically norms which you need to follow. Like, for example, a building which is less than 70 meters requires only one staircase. Staircases which is above 70 meters is we have like two staircases. Then there is a fire check floor. Number of lifts increase. So those are the regulations which are followed in as far as the different DCRs are concerned worldwide. Now, why is the need to go tall? Number one is the scarcity of land. Land is getting scarcer and scarcer, and there is always more demand of putting more area on a smaller number of plot size. So the only option is to go higher and higher. Then there's always a demand of residential and office spaces, economic growth. Technological advancements is also one of the key factors to drive high-rise buildings to go taller and taller. Technological advancements in the sense like steel buildings, composite buildings, prefabricated buildings, etc. Then there is a human aspiration to build higher and higher. Everybody wants to stay, at a height. Height is envisaged as premium. Like if you're on 20th floor, 30th floor, it's supposed to be some kind of a prestige symbol. Okay, I'm living on so and so floor. And then there is this race to compete for a title of the tallest. Like there are many examples worldwide, like the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, where the tallest building has put Dubai in the world map. There was this Petronas Towers, which did the same thing with Malaysia. Then there are that's basically just like the reason for going tall is just to make a kind of a statement. But most of these are the basic reason. But as far as the Indian scenario is concerned, the reason to go tall is basically scarcity of land, nothing more, nothing less. Now, what are the what influences the design of tall buildings? There are these development control rules. That's definitely one of the influence which drives like how you design tall buildings, because rules and regulation has to be adhered, or your buildings permissions will not get approved. You will not get certain approvals as far as the corporation is concerned. Then is it structural design? Is it form function? Is it the climate? Is it the sustainable parameters which drive influence tall buildings? These are definitely parameters which influence the design, but there are few parameters which actually govern the design of tall buildings, and those are market forces, end user requirement, and construction technology and methodology. Now, like what I mean by this is that your design of tall buildings is basically governed by the first three, and the rest is basically the byproduct of what needs to be done for those three factors. Like for example, you have like the structural design. You see that the core of a building should be centrally placed. But what if your market or your certain forces, force you to have a off-centric structural core, or the structural core is behind and the basic building is in the front. So those the other parameters other than your development control rules, the structural design, climate, sustainability are all parameters which you can actually work around. But the first three are something which you just cannot work around. It's like a given, like you cannot, try to tamper with the first three things. One is the market forces. Market forces is like what you require, what is required to be built. End user requirement, like suppose who you are building for, like whether what is the kind of clientele you are looking at, what is their requirement, what is what they need to see in the building, what is the kind of space they require, or what is the uh, amenities they require in the project. And one of the another important criteria is the construction technology and methodology. Like what type of construction technology you build or you use to build higher and faster. Now, as far as the parameter, like what, as far as the sustainable parameters are concerned, those can be, walked around. For example, we did a building. It was an office building where we had like the view side was on the south side, and the north side, which was basically the ideal, was basically for the slum area. But we couldn't reverse the order. We had to keep the view towards the south, and the entire glass portion of the building was coming on the south face. So basically, we used high performance double glazed glazing towards the south and a single glazed unit towards the north. So what I'm trying to say is that the market forces and the end user requirements are so strong that the other function, like the structural design, your sustainable parameters, your climate, and even your form and function take a kind of a back seat. So in this presentation, what we would like to, I'll show you our form, where it is clearly shows like how we perceive the design and how we achieved a certain kind of a density and how we were able to understand the design better because of the market forces and end user requirements, and because of the use of construction technology and methodology. Now, these are the typical, plans for, most of the buildings which you see, like the high-rise buildings in Bombay. These are the typical floor plans of those. Now, you see that there is really no kind of there's nothing similar in terms of design. Like, in this you have like a central core, and you have, flats around. This is like a central, like a U-shaped space where you have the core in the center. This is an off-centric core. This is a central core with wings. And again, this is a core which is divided into two. Like one is on the left, another is on the right. This is again a central core, and this is also central core, but a T-shaped. So there is really no like you cannot say that there is any parameters to the design of tall buildings. But what is one thing which you really see, some element of symmetry which the architects and structural engineers have tried to bring into their design. Like if you see, this is like basically symmetrical towards the X and Y. This is symmetrical. This is symmetrical. This is also symmetrical. But other than that, there are no real parameters which govern the design of tall buildings. Now, in Bombay context, tall does not is anything which is under 300 meters. We are not talking about super talls, or we are not talking about very high-rise buildings. Like we are not talking about Burj Khalifa kind of structures. So if you go any buildings which are higher than 300 meters, then more or less you will get like a central core system spaces around it. And it will be like a tightly, very tight kind of a space. Like, it's basically a square or a rectangle with a central core, which is acting as the spine of the building. Very rarely you will get this linear or a T-shaped or a wing-shaped building if you're going more than 300 meter tall, or even this kind of an off-centric core. So in Mumbai context, tall means anything which is less than 300 meters. Now, these are the three projects which we have chosen from our office. Because they are drastically different. Like, they are so the reason for choosing them is that you will see that most of these, all the three are very different, and they are in having a different context, different methodology, different way of approach, different design. Number one is the Amantra Towers at Kalyan, which is like an affordable housing complex, and it's again a mix of high and low rise buildings. Excalibur Towers is at Mahalakshmi, which is like a luxury tower, which is in a very small lot size. Like, the plot is only around 1500 square meters. And we have tried to achieve like a mix of rehab component and as well as the sale component. And the three are these, the Vivaria towers, which are very high-end luxury towers with a very low density in terms of buildability. So basically, we'll go through these projects, and I'll explain you like how the market forces, end user requirement, and construction technologies help in governing the design of buildings. So in my experience, these three are the most important parameters which influence the design of your buildings. Other things like structural design parameter, then sustainabilities, climate, form, etc., are basically byproducts of that. So this is the first project. This is a project for Tata Housing called Amantra. It's on the site is basically situated on a very busy road. It's in the junction of Kalyan. This is the Kalyan junction, and this is the road going towards Bhiwandi. And this is basically around 25-acre site. Phase 1 is almost complete. We are just starting phase 2, and it's got this it's got this like a range of high and low rise buildings. There are around 11 35-story towers sitting on a parking podium. Now, this is the basic layout of the project, where you have to see the phase 1 and phase 2. And first, what we did is basically we aligned, or when we started this project is under the rental housing scheme by the government of Maharashtra. Now, rental housing is basically a scheme where the government allows you to build a higher FSI, provided one FSI you give for your rehab of people who are affected by, say, road widening, or people who are affected by slum or any other infrastructure project. So this cluster which you see over here is the rehab component, while the rest is everything is the sale component. So basically you get an FSI of 4, out of which 1 is your rehab component and 3 is your sale component. So the densities of what you need to design for is extremely high. Like, you have an FSI of 4, but in reality, if you take the lift, staircase, parking free, The density goes to almost 8 and 9. So that's the densities where in which you need to plan a kind of an efficient layout in terms of cross ventilation, light, etc. So the first thing we did is basically tilt the buildings towards the axis where you could get in the maximum light and maximum wind flow into the complex. Then we were, what we were trying to do is that we were trying to restrict our building heights to 70 meters because 70 is the maximum in cap where you can have only one staircase. So this being an affordable housing project, we wanted to basically curtail the height to 70 meters. But when we were working on the project, what we saw is that the buildings were coming very close to each other. There was not enough light ventilation. The buildings had a setback of only 6 meters from each other. And we were working on permutation combinations, but because the densities were so high, we were not being able to achieve the optimum kind of layout. So then after 3 months of work, once the client comes to our office and just like says that, okay, we forgot to tell you one thing, that this complex is actually a 50 lakh square feet complex. And we forgot to tell you one thing, that we want it to be built in one shot. We don't want any phases. We don't want any this thing. We want it to be the entire 50 lakh square feet has to rise above ground in one shot. That was like a single most important brief, which we got 3 months after we worked out the basic concepts. And that really changed the way we thought, in terms of how the design should evolve. So we worked with a lot of, grade A contractors like L&T, Pratibha, Shapoorji Pallonji. And we said, okay, how can we really help, to achieve this? So the use of technology was like inevitable. You had to do this if you wanted to really build faster and higher, you had to use technology. So we basically shortlisted 2-3 technologies, and we evaluated the pros, cons, etc. And we said, okay, let's go with this Maivan technology, which is like a aluminum shuttering formwork system, where every floor can be casted at in an interval of 9 days. Now, if 11 towers have to be built on a single podium, there's a lot of logistics which is required. So what we did, we said, let us do a combination of high and low rise buildings. Now the reason for doing this is basically to get more open space between the high rise buildings. So if you see this, there is a lot of open space which we would have not got if it was a low rise building. So we kind of developed a kind of a system where we did a low rise and a high rise combination. And the main reason to do was to develop a construction methodology where we basically plotted the radius of the crane movement and then plotted the buildings onto the site. So these 11 towers which we saw, which are constructed with the help of these 6 cranes, which moved in a direction, so one crane was used by 2 towers. So the location of the crane was in the center of the smaller building. And then once the towers came up to like 12, 13 floors, then the work on the lower buildings actually started. So here what I'm trying to tell you is that it's not the form, it's not the climatology, it's not the sustainable parameters, but the drive to use construction technology and methodology which actually evolved the design. This is how the project looks like, a combination of large and these are 11 towers which are built, and then you see these smaller towers in between. Hope you can hear me well. You can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thanks. So this is basically the configuration of how the units are placed on the site. And again, if you see, like, there is like a method to this also. It looks like there is total madness. But there's a method, like, you intentionally 3 bedrooms are towards the flanges where you have the optimum view. The smaller units are towards the center. So that's how, this is again market driven. It is like 3 bedrooms because it requires more premium, and there is a larger ticket size. So give them a better view, better location. So the design is driven by market, the market forces. Like what sells, that is put into the design. 2 bedrooms are towards the center. You see all the 3 is towards the periphery. And again, because we were using technology, we had to standardize the units. We could not do say a 2 bedroom and make 5 different varieties of 2 bedrooms. We needed to do 1 or 2 types and repeat that more number of times to get efficiency in terms of the way the Maivan formwork operates, because each tower we had basically taken one set of formwork, and which was getting split into phases. So you have like these 11 towers which were built, like there are 35-story towers, and the lower portion is the smaller building where the tower crane used to sit first and then operate these buildings. And then once the buildings came up to like say 15th floor, then the work of these buildings started. These are called the bar buildings. I don't know why they call that, but the client had called them the bar buildings. So that's basically the basic layout. So, and this is a typical floor plan where you have the two staircase because it is more than 70 meters, 3 lifts, and there are four flats on a single core. Now, if you see the other wing is basically a mirror image of that, but a twisted mirror image. And then this passage is left to connect to the bar buildings. Now, another thing very important when you're doing high-rise buildings is to keep the perimeter of the building as straight as possible, because any offset means an addition of a column and beam. So what we have tried to do is, if you see, this is totally the perimeter of the building is all like all like in one line. Certain offsets you cannot avoid, so we have, because of the area and things like that. So it's always best to minimize offsets when you're doing tall buildings. So you see, like it's all in one plane. And what we have done is that this gap we have kept to connect to the smaller buildings. So the smaller buildings don't have the core. This is the passage which connects the core. So on the lower floor, it is 6 flats to a core, but when you go higher, about 12 floors, it is 4 flats to a core. So you can see this passage. So you have like 6 flats to a core on the lower floors. And then it becomes, then these towers rise up to form four flats to a core. And the lower so there is like again a hierarchy of the buildings. So whichever is going higher are the bigger flats, and the whichever are remaining smaller, like the bar buildings which are 12 floors, those are the smaller flats. So that also is driven by the market because the compact flats is lesser ticket size, so it will be more affordable and more efficient to keep them low rise. This is again another same thing. It's like four and two in the bar building, and then again this is the mirror of that. So you can see this. So you have two staircases, 3 lifts. Again, you have very straight block kind of a things. And this is the mirror. So the next building is just a mirror of that. So when you're using like technology, you cannot like suppose if there are 11 buildings, you need to try to keep like 1 or 2 types. Because repetition is the key word here. If you don't have repetition in your design, then it becomes extremely uneconomical when you're using technology. You have a section like you have 4 levels of 2 levels of basement, 2 podiums, 1 stills, recreational stills, and the section where you have the taller building, which is 35 floor, and a 12 floor bar building, which is the low rise building. And the top of these are all terraces, landscaped gardens. This is all landscaping on the top. So this is the aerial view, like you see, like, combination of high, low rise buildings. This is the skyline, like a staggered skyline. So when you're passing on the road, like, you will see this interesting skyline, like, of high rise and low rise buildings. But the real reason for doing it is not to achieve like an interesting form, but that was done to achieve a kind of a speed in construction. It was not achieved just for aesthetics. So this is very few people will know this because everybody thinks it is done mainly to achieve a kind of an interesting form where, because it's a kind of a 4 FSI high density project, the architect has done this staggering kind of a skyline, but the reality is very different. And when you're doing tall buildings, another thing is that you basically don't have much options in terms of the facade because it's all concrete facade. So you can, from the ground till the terrace, the formwork has to basically go the same. From this level till the end, it has to go one shot. So you cannot put any stick-ons or you cannot do anything which is superficial. Maximum you can work on the crown or you can work on the lower portion of the building. And this being a very high density project, a lot of value engineering was done for this project because the multiplities, everything is multiplying in so much of square feet, so much of area, so much of so a lot of value engineering was done. Now each window has got like a grill. I don't think if you can see it, but there's a grill over here. So we had proposed a design for that grill with just very simple vertical slats of 3 in center to center. So after maybe 2 years after we give that design, their value engineering department comes back and says, okay, instead of 3 inch, can we make it 4 inches? I said, yeah, why not? But what's the advantage? Saying, no, if we do that, then with every grill, you reduce 2 bars. And by reducing 2 bars into number of flats, into number of floors, into number of buildings, we are saving around 4 crores. So that is the kind of volumes you're talking when you're doing, this kind of scale. So, everything is calculated. There's a separate department of around 15, 20 people. From the day go, till the work on the site starts, they are only doing this value engineering. This is the clubhouse, some images of the entry. So totally the project is around 25 acres. Landscape area is around 10 acres, 60% ground coverage. Then you have a height 35 floors and 12 floors. Like there were 11 towers of 35 floors and another like say 12 towers of 12 floors. And totally around 4,350 flats and around 50 lakh square feet was the construction year, and the cost was around 22,000 crores. So this is one of the project which which was like into a affordable segment category. Now we'll move on to another project which is high end but high density. It's a small building at Mahalakshmi. It's under the 33/7 scheme. It's like a scheme by the government where you have a plot of land. You have a plot of land where there are tenants or tenements which are already existing. So you have to rehouse those tenements into a separate building and then create your own sale building. So you need to basically carve out a space for them. At the same time, you can build your own tower. So normally, one is the density which is actually used by the tenants, and 3 is the density or the FSI you get for building the new project. Now 3 is the FSI, so total construction will work to 7, 8 because of the parking, lift, staircase, etc. So this is the site, like it's like on bang on the Jacob Circle. This is the view from the site. Like you have the Mahalakshmi Bridge, Mahalakshmi Racecourse, Arabian Sea. So this is the view which you need to exploit. This is the view which the end user wants to see. This is the view which the developer wants to sell. So this is the view which you will, as a designer, would like to build into your design. Like without this, so this is all market driven. This is not like something where so form comes later on. The condition is that every room of the unit, every room of the flat should get this kind of a view. This is the site. You come down from the bridge. This is the access. Now this is a very peculiar site because it's like a long site, but it is divided. It's like cut into two by this road. So you have this 1/3 land which is carved out, and the 2/3 land is in one chunk. So what we did is that there are 2 rehab buildings which are like shorter, like that is only 70 meters, and the taller one is the sale component. So you have 2 buildings, like one which is like 70 meters, and this goes higher. So these 2 are the rehab buildings, and this is the sale building. Now we had to keep this building over here because this is the access. This is the immediate access to the building. This is not a very good road, so we could not use this for the sale component. So what we did is that we kept the rehab component on both sides of the road and build the sale component towards this side. Now, even though the race course is here, we didn't have an option because of the site. Now we could not angle and make the building angular, because if you do that, then there'll be a lot of inefficiency in terms of the design, in terms of the parking. So we had to keep the building more or less aligned with the site. So that was one of the restrictions of this very, very tight site. So this is like how your entry. I'll just go to the typical floor plan. This is the typical floor plan where, again, now if you see the core is off-centric, it's not in the center. So that is the requirement of the site. So ideally you will structurally, ideally you need to have like a central core. But there are certain situations where the planning does not demand to you to do that. So the structural engineer has to work around that to give you the most optimum kind of a design by putting the core off-centric. So you have these two staircases, two lifts, freight lift, and this entire thing are two very large 3-bedroom flats. Now one of the reasons for doing this is to get the view from each room, plus keeping it together gives you the flexibility of making it into one flat by removing this central wall. Now, this being a very tight site, it was important. The building, the parking really needs to be below the building. Normally, in a high-rise building, that's a very big challenge because the structural sizes are so heavy that you really don't get much to do with parking, below the building. But in this building, we had absolutely no option. We had to, have parking below. That's the only place it can work. So what we did is that the reason for doing this off-centric core was to allow for a parking grid below. So if you see this, this is the typical column arrangement, and we tried to carve out a 6-meter driveway below the building. So normally if you have smaller columns, we can float it, but if the staircase lift, the core cannot be floated. That has to go all the way from the lower portion till the terrace. So you need to, when you're doing high density projects like these, you need to basically plan your typical floor and your parking for simultaneously. It's like seamless. It should be seamless. You cannot plan it in isolation. You cannot do a typical floor plan and then fit in the parking, because that will never work. So even if you see the grids, we designed the width of the bedroom such that you get 1 car parking. Then these columns were floated, so you get exactly 3 car parkings below that. Then the living room was used for the car lifts. So the parking structure below the tower was very, very efficient and required minimum floating of columns. There were certain floating which were inevitable, but it was very workable. It was not something which the client would cry about. So this is how your typical floor. You get the living room gets the view, bedroom gets the view, master bedroom. Even the toilets get the view of the racecourse and the Arabian Sea. Even this gets the view from the back towards the Mazgaon docks. So what I'm trying to say here is that the planning is not done because of form. It's not done because of sustainability. It is driven. It is designed for the market. The market wanted that every room should get the view of the racecourse. So that is the reason why this typical floor is designed the way it is. The end user requirement, if you wanted some flexibility, if these 2 rooms want to be combined, or if you want to increase the size. Now there are many who have redone this area. So you need to have this kind of a flexibility built in. If they don't want a puja room, they don't want a servants, if they want to increase the kitchen, if they want to keep 1 walk-in wardrobe and make this as a study. So all those flexibilities need to be built in the design stage itself. So the architect needs to think how how the end user is going to actually live or use that space. So then only you can, really plan an efficient structure. This is the entrance, like you enter, like everything is very compact, tight, very, and these are the kind of projects which when you come out of the colleges and when you are actually doing your practice, these are the projects which you will get more of, because of the the densities are going to get higher and higher, and your plot sizes are going to go on shrinking. So the complexity of the design is going to get more and more complicated, where you have like rehab component, sale component, parking for the sale, parking for the rehab, amenities, etc. All clubbed in a lot which is actually half than what is actually required. So you enter into the porch. This is the large entrance lobby, double height, because even your entrance lobbies needs to have like a scale which justifies your building. This is the puzzle parking system, and because the space is so tight, a lot of amenities are now pushed onto the terrace level. So the terrace is like a very community space where you have walking spaces. Some people have swimming pools on the clubhouses on the terrace. So the terrace is earlier was all services, but in today's day and age, the terrace is where all the recreational activities are coming up. At least in a city like Bombay, like, where the ground is all used up for parking and other things. This is the how the terrace is designed. You have a lot of greenery, like, plus you get these outstanding views of the Arabian Sea racecourse from the terrace. This is like the total is around 130 meters, where you have the parking of 4 floors, basement is services, and then you have these typical residential floors, refuge floors, which you see here. And then there's like a crowning feature which is given to the building. Now, when you're designing the facade of the building, you need to see that, for a high-rise building, the maintenance is also a very big challenge. You normally don't, it's not like a small 7-story building where you can put up a scaffolding, change whatever you want to change, or, paint or break or things like that. Once it's built, it's there to stand for years. So normally what we do is that the lower portion, which is like 3 or 4 floors, and the crown, those are the only treatments which is given architecturally. The rest of the building basically goes simple, clean, straight cut, with not much fenestrations. This is again a Maivan construction, where it's like an all RCC framework structure. So there is no plastering, there is no, it's like once the RCC is done, it's only painted. Now this project is, these are the renderings of the project, like, you see the views from the race course. So this is what is actually they are selling, they are selling the whole idea of this project is sold by telling the end user that you are going to get use of the race course, and so when you design your building, you have to achieve that. You have to achieve that every bedroom gets a view of the race course. So if you do the other way around, then it's not market driven. So most of the projects which we have designed, the principal approach is driven by the end user and the market, like what really the end customer wants. Whether they want a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom, like they want like a larger living room, they want like a walk-in wardrobe in one of the bedrooms. Everything is driven by the market, and there's a lot of research which goes in before even the architect gets the brief. This project is called Excalibur. So what we did is that Excalibur is the sword of King Arthur. So the building is named after the sword. So it's like, because it's like tall, thin, and strong. That was the concept. So what we did is that we, picked up motifs from the sword, like, and we created this pattern in GRC, which was then like put onto the entire lower portion of the building. So this is what the motif, like one of the motif was picked up, and then these were repeated. It was repeated because this was done in GRC. So again, GRC becomes economical only if you get repetition. So this is one mold which is repeated like so many times. So the entire lower portion of the building is this, GRC jali. This is where the lift, the car lift is there. And then the overall building behind on the top is basically very simple, clean cut lines, little bit of cornicing, grooves. And then you do certain crowning on the terrace. This is your two rehab. This is the tower, it's a sail tower. The branding is also continued in the lift lobbies. That the sword motif is taken onto as graphics into the lobbies. The entrance. So everything has to be done in that, as per you cannot every building is having these grand entrance lobbies, double height spaces. So you cannot design market exclusive of without knowing who the end user is going to be. Now this is the images of the project, like built. Now there is this, you see this a square light box. Now that's got like a very interesting story to this. It was never there in the original design. But after we built this, after the scaffolding was removed, after the building was painted, the end user came in and said, okay, there was one person who bought these 3 flats, 3 floors, so 6 flats of this building. And he demanded to the developer that I want certain statement that these 3 floors are mine. So because it was a very large deal, so he basically said, okay, let us give him like this kind of a feature where in the skyline he can boast, okay, this is like these last three floors are his, by giving this kind of a light box, square box onto the building. So there also there is the end user dominance or the end user requirement, like whoever buys dominates. So again, that feature, this is also designed, this was never a feature in the design. But because the end user wanted it, it was put as a design feature. So the end user plays a very big, plays a very important role in how you design or how you know your buildings. Like you feel that your architect is the supreme, but it is not. The end user is actually the supreme. So see, if you see, the plot area is only 1800 square meters. And total is around 1,60,000 construction area, and the building height is 130 meters. So this was one of the projects which was a smaller project, and one last project which I'll just show it to. If we have time.
Yeah, we have time, sir. The interesting case studies.
One small one, another. This was like this is also just behind this project. One more thing I needed, one thing to show, this one small thing, because it's a part of the context. So I lost that presentation. Yeah, so see now, if you see this, this is the project I just spoke about. And when we got this project, we were already working on a project which was just behind. And that entire project, which is the Vivaria Towers, was over like facing this project. So because we were doing both the projects, what we did try to do is that we try to minimize the overlooking of both the projects. Like we saw to it that this building doesn't overlook into the other building, because we could control that because we were doing both of them. So what we did is that one of the reason of putting the core behind is that these are relatively all dead walls. These are all relatively dead walls which face the other project. So all the window side is towards this. This is all window side, and this is all dead wall side. So when you are looking from our other project and somebody is he cannot see anything, or they cannot see into this building. It's totally, the view is blocked off. So that is one of the contextual kind of a thing which we could control because we were doing both. But say if you see this, like the other side of the building is all dead walls. There's one last project which I'll just show it to you. This is again the side. So in terms of the context, like the Excalibur project is somewhere here, and this is another project which we were already working on, which is relatively a larger project than the Excalibur. And already when we got Excalibur, phase 1 of the project was already built, and we were working on the phase 2. So the red is phase 1, and which has got 3 towers, and phase 2 is the orange portion. Again, if you see, this is the view which everybody wants to capture. There's almost like 3-4 crore square feet, all wanting the same view. So everybody is trying to maximize, stroke, exploit this view, because this is the only open space which is which is going to remain as an open space, and beyond that is like all Arabian Sea. So again, this project has got this view. And before we start the project, what the client does is that they take drone pictures every 7 floors. So they bring up the drone, that every 7 floors there's like a 360-degree drone picture which is given to us, and we are asked to orient our buildings and our design according to that, because what they believe is there are 2 things which sell. Number 1 is the layout of the flat, what you're giving them in terms of the flat design. Number 2 is what they will see out of the flat. These are the only 2 things that matter. Other than that is all like secondary. Everything, whatever is you get, is bonus. But these are the principally the only 2 things which really matter. Like in fact, they have done some surveys, and the only thing which even the developer really spends time on is the typical floor plan. Like we have, for this project, we must have done at least 30 to 40 alterations in the typical floor plan. Now this project is basically this Hindustan Mills. It was like a old textile mills, and and there was this policy which the government brought out, where the textile mills could be converted into residential or office complexes. So under that policy, the clients did a joint venture with the mill owner, and they came out to develop this into this high-end residential complex. So this is the basic layout of the site. It's, I think, close to around 15 acres, where you have three towers in front, four towers in front, and one behind. And when we started off with this design, is that what we wanted to do is that we wanted to give maximum open space into the project. Means that was one of the biggest USPs which was considered. So what we did is that we basically put the towers towards the road, and the entire portion behind was a very large open garden, like a tranquil open space clubhouse, like it's more like a recreational zone. And the entire site is got two levels of parking below that. One of the reasons of putting the towers behind in the front was to give this large chunk which is tower free zone, so that this the parking below this is does not have the column towers going all the way through, and the efficiency of the parking layouts becomes more more workable. Like if you have like as I told you earlier, you really cannot plan tower parking below the towers, because there are these large, very thick columns, your core, central core, there are a lot of services which are going through, so it's not very easy. Now, this being a very large site, we had an option to go low rise. We had this, we could easily consume that FSI or the density by going, like, say, within 70 meter. But here the reason for going tall was twofold. One is that the higher you go, the better view you can get of the race course. And number two is that we wanted to free up a lot of land on the ground, so that we could put a lot of gardens, open spaces, because this was one of the few developments where you have like a 10-12 acre garden inside the complex. So this was one of the USPs why this project is so successful. This is the site before we came in. Like this was the mill land, and the site was cleared fully. And once you develop a mill land, you need to give certain percentage as a garden, certain percentage for Tumada. So all those formalities were done, and then the work on the towers began. So first, this was basically phase one, where we worked on three towers, three identical towers. Now this is like the skyline from our side. So it's like extremely dense. Like there is absolutely no greenery, no open space. There is like like you can even this is being South Bombay. The lot sizes are small. Building and the plot is virtually one. So there is no like garden area, no area for kids to play. So what we thought is that why not create something which is like a kind of a park within the complex itself. So what we did is that this phase one was basically 8 acres, and after leaving the setbacks, we and 25% mandatory RG, which is rule, we only built 10% of the land. And that's the reason why these towers are going high. Here, it's not necessary to go so high. It's basically, we have gone high because of the requirement of the market, requirement of the end user, and the requirement of what actually will sell in the market. So only 10% of the project was built up. We put like required fire tenders area around the podium, around the buildings, and other than that, everything is all recreational area. I'll just show you the pictures of that. And whatever you see additional, like green, the light green, is all green areas. So the top of the podium is a kind of a large, garden where in which there are three towers which sit in. So it's a garden in which three towers are sitting. So it's the other way of looking at it. You have a clubhouse which is at the corner. We intentionally put the clubhouse in the corner so you get like large greenery where you have like parties, you can like sit out spaces, lot of landscaping. It's got a very large heated pool. All these. This is the fire engine track, which is mandatory as far as design, and and entire site for 2 levels is parking below, and you come up into the ramp, and then this is a cul-de-sac you go down. This ramp is also there because of the fire. It's not is in day-to-day use. Entry exit is happening only on the ground. So this entire portion on the top of the podium is a no cars, total pedestrian space. It's only like kids playing and walking, elder people walking around in the evening. And they have these these ponds where they have put fishes. There's like music going on. So this kind of it's like a, once you are in this space you don't feel you're in Bombay. So that's what we wanted to really achieve. Now this is the basic form of the building, like of the towers. Like you have the 4 BHK, 3 BHK, 3 BHK. Now the reason for doing this kind of a Y-shaped building is that we wanted to take view of not only each flat gets the view of the Arabian Sea and the race course, but each room of each flat gets the view of the Arabian Sea, because that is what is the market, that is what the end user wants. If we would design a building which is governing to the structural requirement, which is a kind of a boxy structure where you have like 2 flats on one side and 2 flats behind, and it would meet the structural parameters, but it would not really meet the marketing parameters or the market forces or the end user requirement. So the principal things which governs your design is the way, like how you want your how the market forces really act on your design. Like it's not then everything else you can work around. Like now this actually is not a very efficient as far as the structural design point of view is concerned, but the structural engineers were very happy to work around that, because it's a wing shaped design. And these connections I'll show you on the typical floor. So every flat, every unit gets the view of the Arabian Sea. Like if every, so that's the reason for doing it, is basically market end user driven. We would not like a form like this, to be very frank, but because it was like generated by the site, by what was in front of the site, it was basically a derivation of that. So this is how your typical floor, you have the 4 BHK and the 3 BHK, and this is the central this is your central core. Now again, this is off-centric, and you have this very flimsy connections in terms of the design, which is not a very happy situation for the structural consultants. But as I said that all this can be worked out. It can be around, but your main thing is to get views. All this has all the toilets, bedrooms, guest bedrooms get view. This side you get the Mazgaon dock view. Intentionally this bedroom is pulled out so that you get views from this side and this side, this side, this side. So every room is got views. Here we have got a corner window, so you get like 360-degree views. Now each apartment basically is selling for something like say 15 to 20 crores. So somebody who buys apartment with that kind of money will definitely want something which is, which is something which is talked about, like, you have like these large decks which are going on. Now, earlier these decks were free of FSI. So we have connected the bedrooms and the living room with these large 8 feet decks. Again, if you see the the design of the units, like there are the structural elements or the columns are placed in very strategic locations where you can combine like spaces like this. You can break this wall and combine it into form a larger living room. There is like this study you can make into a bedroom, and then there are many things where this you can make this smaller or you can make this larger. So there are many permutation combinations which an architect needs to think at the time of planning, how the end user is going to use the space, whether he will use it for this, and it has to go on. Sometimes you may not think how they use the space, but there is a small window here given for cross ventilation. This is fully cross ventilated. So this is your heart of this. What one plan is your heart of your, you start your design with this, and basically you end your design with this. Client also is interested only in this. End user is interested only in this one plan. So for this project, for this one plan, we had like 45 different options created just for this one location. After one plan, after which it was finalized, then it went to the service structural consultants, MEP consultants, and then we started building. Again, this is also built by this Maivan Construction, where it's an all concrete formwork system, where uh, entire entire floor is done only in 9 days. Typically, if it's a conventional system, it takes 15 to 17 days for one slab, but this is done basically in half the period. These are some views of the 3D views where you have these large decks. Now these at that time were free of FSI. In the another towers we have restricted this because this is now counted in FSI. So these decks had become the USP of this project, because with 8 feet decks, so people used to do the yoga, their meditation. They used to have like formal in space, uh, gatherings in this area. Now because of COVID, these spaces are like heavily in use. In fact, the demand of the first 3 towers have gone up because of these deck spaces versus the other 2 towers, which I'll show you the plan. Because these deck spaces have reduced because they are now counted in FSI, and we could not waste that FSI, so we have taken this into only the living room portion is taken as a deck, while the other portion is taken inside the room. These are some interiors, like where you can see the large deck happening, and the interiors of the toilets and all also very like exclusive, lavish. Now the reason for doing these similar towers on the podium, like many people ask, why did you like do a similar design on the towers, like why the same design? But that again is like a kind of a derivation of the client's budget. Clients need to build faster, because what happens is that there is like a consistency, that is standardization. One typical lobby you make and it is repeated so many times. You don't have to go on reinventing the wheel every time, because that actually you feel it's like creativity, but that's actually to a developer, that is waste of time, because he's really not getting anything much value out of it. So once you perfect something, then it goes under mass production, or it is. So every time what we did is, even if you see the toilet design, it was perfected and then mass produced to get efficiency in terms of speed of construction, in terms of design, in terms of procuring material. Like for example, this kind of this gray travertino, we required like 2.5 lakh square feet for this. So to source that kind of volume for in the market also is kind of a challenge. So they had this procurement team which used to first source which material is available in bulk, then give us these options, and we used to work backward for putting those elements. Because suppose it takes certain material and it is not available in bulk, you like to get 10,000 square feet, 15,000 square feet, then it really doesn't matter, because we have to change the design in the other towers. So all that value engineering was done by the developer. Even this is a gray antique beige. So the reason for putting it in the living room was because that one lot was available in lakhs and lakhs of square feet. So when you're doing towers, it's very important to know like how the modulation of spaces, modulation of materials, how you even if you see the lifts, like the plan of the lifts, the sizing of the lifts also matter, because that is also taken standard. Like there are 4 lifts into 5 towers, so 20 lifts ka order is given at one time. So that also is negotiated like in a year in advance, where they negotiate all lifts together, so the cost comes down. So it's more of a, you feel that this is all design, everything is design, everything is form, function. But there is a lot of other things to that. Then there is logistics, there is procurement difficulties, there is construction technologies, things like that, which actually really govern the design and how the high-rise buildings are actually built. Now this is the elevation of the the project, where the reason for showing you this is that the lower, when you're doing the facade of these high-rise buildings, it's like very clean, straight cut. Maximum what you are doing is that if you want to do certain kind of a design element, what you can do is that you can do it on the lower portion and the higher portion. The rest of the buildings, 90% of the building goes straight from the first residential floor to the last residential floor. The reason for that is because of the use of the Maivan technology. You cannot alter anything in this area, because the formwork which is already made in Malaysia. For this project, it was done in Malaysia. You have to sign off on the formwork. Every groove on the facade, every size of the window, every switch box in every flat, everything is predetermined and signed off in. So the entire thing, there is a mock-up done in Malaysia. The engineers and architects have to go there, sign off, and then once it is come to the site, then absolutely there is no chance anybody can even modify anything. Even if you feel that there's a mistake and you want to modify something, it's too late. It just goes, and like from year to year, it's just built. And this is again done little bit like, this is something which is like a cosmetic, and the lower portion is a bit cosmetic, but this is everything. The building, 90% of the facade which you see It is all clean cut, no stick on, nothing which can work. Only it's an RCC structure which is just painted on. So this is how the 3 towers look from the race course, and this is the 4th tower under construction, and there's a 5th one which is behind that. Here again, if you see that this is, like we have the 3 towers. The reason for taking it at one edge of the plot is to give efficiency in the parking. So if you see, there's a very clean cut efficient grid for the parking, which is not interfering with the column design, with the columns and of the tower. And again, another thing, if you see that there is nothing much happening in terms of parking under the towers, because it has got this very heavy duty columns, lifts, staircases. There are lots and lots of services. This is where the clubhouse is, and this project also has a very advanced garbage collection system. Like, it's not like that the jamadar goes to every house and like collects the garbage in a bucket. Here they put it into a refuse chute, and automatically the garbage is collected under each tower, and with the help of these mover systems, like kind of conveyor belts, garbage is collected in one room behind, which is the garbage collection room, and from there the municipality trucks come and take it. So it's like done so seamlessly, like that you don't even know that there is such a large population using so much of garbage, so much of waste, and you really don't see anything when you are into the complex. Now this is a typical section of the podium where you see the clubhouse, you see 2 levels of car park, and the top level is all landscaping, and that's got these very very different levels which are going on, where you have modulations for the clubhouse, and there is like a moat, and then there is like a jogging tracks. So this is like very complicated green space, which again has acted as the USP of the project. And you have these car parks. We have intentionally taken higher height for the car parks because one of the reason for that is construction point of view. Okay, we wanted to construct the podium before, the podium was constructed before once the towers came up to the 12th or the 14th floor, the work on the podium had already started. And once you do the first slab of the we thought, the engineers told us that we would require smaller trucks to go through the podium for dumping material and things like that. So the first level of the parking was taken intentionally higher to achieve that construction ease, because or the dumping trucks really could not come into the podium once the podium was getting built. And these towers were there were 3 different formworks which were bought from Malaysia, and these 3 were constructed all together, and then we modified the formwork of one of the tower to construct the 4th one, and the same one was used for the 5th tower. So the reason to do like similar towers was to achieve efficiency in terms of the formwork. So the overall formwork cost on the entire project per square foot reduced. These are the building construction. What you see on the top is the aluminium formwork system. This is the aluminium formwork system, where you have like the entire the tower is in concrete. So there is no brickwork, plaster and happening in anywhere in this. Everything you see of the tower which is painted is concrete. and internal is everything is also concrete, and this every 9 days the formwork is removed and put up onto the upper floors. Now in this project what happened is that only what we have done is the external core, external walls, and the column and beams are taken in as Maiwan shuttering or as no, because these are very high end flats, so there has to be certain amount of flexibility which is to be built in for the end user. Like they would like to make the bedroom bigger or living room bigger or things like that. But when we are doing like low cost housing in Maiwan, like other projects, every wall in the flat or in the on the floor plan is an RCC wall. So the project virtually does not have any brickwork and plaster. Everything is RCC. But in this project, we could not do that because of the end user requirement, because they wanted to have a lot of flexibility. You have these celebrity interior designers coming in and changing things, changing layouts. So all that needs to be built. Somebody who's buying a 20 crore flat will at least spend 2-3 crores on interiors. So they should have the ability to do it. This is the form of the clubhouse. And you have like 2 levels. This is a party terrace. This is the heated swimming pool. This is the inside of the clubhouse. I have this mini theater inside the building. The lobbies. This is how the building facade looks. It's like a very clean cut, facade with just like groove lines. And you have these corner windows to basically exploit the views of the racecourse and Arabian Sea. You see these large deck balconies happening on all the flats. This is the back of the back side of the towers where you see the staircase elements. Now the lighting designer has done a very unique concept by lighting this with different colors. So if you see the building from in the night, each one will have a different color from behind. So it looks something very striking in the skyline. This is the clubhouse with a large open space. This is a ramp which I told you about. It's just for the fire engine to come in case of emergency. But the entire space, what you see here, is all pedestrian. All this is pedestrian area. All this is pedestrian. There's no cars coming up to this line. And here also you see a little bit of cladding only on the lower floor and on the top. So the building is only treated for the few floors below and above. Rest of the building goes straight cut. So, and if you see the facade, there are very few features like just grooves, little bit of cornicing, little bit of because anything which is add-on is going to create maintenance, and it's going to basically be something which will be stuck on, and it's not going to really serve any purpose. This is just the crown of this is how the project looks in the greenery. Like you have these undulating green spaces. These are the ponds. They have got these fishes and all in that. The lower portion of the building is all GRC with this kind of a pattern. This is the entrance porch where you enter into the building with this GRC motif. This is the elevation of the podium where you have the car parking, where you have the ground level car parking is open, and the above one is got these GRC concentric circle jalis. The jalis help to get in light ventilation. Plus, it looks as a design feature on the very long facade. This is almost like half a kilometer. You can see the different colors of light for each tower. Like now there are 5. So we have got these different colors happening from the back of the building. This is how the buildings look in the skyline. You can see the 4th tower coming up. This is the 4th tower where it's very similar to the first 3. So I won't spend much time on this. But what we have to, like another thing what we need to do is that because these are high-rise buildings, we need to go to the high-rise committee where we have to plot the tall buildings around our 500 meters around our plot and do a wind tunnel test after which the structural designer assesses the structural loads on the tower and gives us the final design of the structure. So the wind tunnel test is very important, where you plot the different buildings around your plot and the heights of the buildings. And then this has to also be a part of your submission to the committee also. If you see the plan is very similar, but these balconies which were there in the first 3 towers are gone because it's now only the in front of the living room because of the change in the DC rules. So now the developer cannot afford to give large balconies because it comes into FSI. So only the living room, because this was so well celebrated and this was the USP of the design. They wanted to give the balconies, but the size has been reduced and it's only in front of the living rooms. And another change is that, earlier we had, for a 70-meter building, we had only 1 staircase in the old DC rules. In the new DC rules, we had to give 2 staircases of 2 meters width. So apart from that change, what we did is that the same I1 shuttering which we had bought, we modified that to modify the new core design and the new design for the balconies. And the same formwork system was used for the 4th and the 5th tower. This is how the 4th tower is under construction. Like each tower has got at least 2 or 3 tower cranes where they lift materials up and down. You can see that the first 3 buildings are fully operational and occupied, and the work on the 4th one is under construction. The last tower is the 5th tower, which the design is more or less the same, but this is under the public car park, public lot, like public. So what the government says that you can get additional FSI if you build a public car park for the outsiders, not only confined to your plot, but for the outsiders, and 50% of whatever you build, you get in terms of FSI to build. So basically, what we have done is that we have built a very large parking lot, around 2,000 cars, and the rest. So the area is around say 8 lakh square feet. So 4 lakh square feet we get to build, which covers the area of the tower. So that is done behind this. So this is like a slightly inferior kind of a plot because it's behind. So you get this entry. These are the first 3 towers. You come inside and then you have this tower behind, and then you have the public car park, which is basically attached to it but behind. And the top of the public car park is basically a green space and access from the road behind. This is the Maulana Azad Road from behind. So in terms of your, in terms of design, whatever you see blue is all public car park. It's all public. Like anybody can go there and park your car, and whatever you see is red is for the developer. So you basically for the building parking first 4 levels is public car park, and then the top levels is the parking for the tower. Now this is a slightly taller tower compared to the other 4 towers, which is now under construction, like now 15-16 stories high, already built. This is how they are marketing it. So in every brochure, everything they are marketing the view. They are marketing the view of the sea, view of the race course. So the design also needs to complement that. It cannot be like done in isolation. These are the renderings of the tower. Like again, you see like just the lower portion is treated. The rest entire portion is clean, and then the crown is treated again. And the top of the public car park is all green spaces. It's fully a green oasis with walking, jogging tracks, fountains. These are all artificial trees. There's a lot of leveling happening. And these are all these are all real trees. We have like made a soil fill of around 1.5 meters. This is the landscape design which you see from your flat. And this is what is getting built now. You have this kind of a track with different green spaces. This is a separate clubhouse which is having all the sports facilities like squash courts and things like that. You are building under construction. There you see the public car park which is getting built, and then the tower in the front. This is how the project works. Is put into the skyline of Bombay, like 3 towers. 4th one is now already built. This is like an old picture, and the 5th one will come, yet still under construction. So you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the 5th. The 5th one is like slightly taller. It's like 60 stories high, and first 3 are identical. This is also slightly, this is 45 floors, and this is around 60 floors. You have the first tower, which is 45, second 45, third 45, 4th is around 50 floors, and the 5th is 60 floors. The 5th tower goes to 235 meters. Total plot is around 15 acres. And total construction area is around 55 lakh square feet, and cost of construction is 3,000 crores. And this is the first, gold green home certification to be awarded to a residential building. And this project has won numerous awards from the institute, from real estate fraternity, and name it. So thanks. This was what I had to share. And so coming back to what really influences the design. It's the main thing. What influences is the market forces, number 1. Number 2 is the end user requirement, and number 3 the use of construction technologies. So this is what we have learned, and we have seen in these 3 projects of ours. Okay, how these 3 factors have influenced the design of what we did for these projects. These projects were very different from each other, and that was the learning. What we had is that ultimately, sustainability, structural design, everything is a byproduct and can be worked around, but market forces and the end user requirements are something which you cannot work around them, and you need to build that into your design. Thank you very much. Any else? Anybody has any questions? Anything else? I mean, please let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Uh, anyone has a question, guys? I have received a couple of questions. I'll just pick up one because that was your concluding statement, and uh, uh, so the question is, as an architect, what is the priority, architecture forms or economy or market demand?
No, so that's exactly what I'm trying to bring into the
Yeah.
what I was trying to tell in the presentation is that we are always taught in colleges. Even I was taught the same thing. That, you always start the design with form and function, and climatology and orientation. But when you come into the real world and when you're designing for developers and users, and when the stakes are so high, like you are the developer is going to sell something which is like somebody's lifetime earnings. It is like not 1 crore, 2 crores. It is like 20, 25 crores. So it's everything boils down to uh, what he is expecting. He is expecting like this unobstructed view from from the balcony. He's expecting a kind of a world class amenities. He's expecting world class construction. So all that has to be built into your design. I'm not saying that form and function is not important. It is important, but it is like a byproduct. The principal thing is that you're designing for somebody, and you're designing for a market which is going to basically decide, like somebody else is going to decide whether your design, what you are you have achieved, is actually practical, workable, because you are not going to live in it. Somebody else is going to buy it, and somebody else is going to live in it. So market demand and end user requirement is, I feel, the most primary thing. Rest everything comes and falls into place. I'm not saying they are not important. They are important, but they they are like down the list.
Right. Very true. Very true. Sir, I have received one more question. That is, what are the implications due to MOF and environmental authorities? So, is there any? I mean, is there any design changes or design gets hampered due to that, or is there any changes due to that?
See, MOEF is basically like a we have this checklist. Normally, when you're designing a project like this, like we go much beyond what high-rise requirements are. So it's like everything, like a STP or a sustainability parameter, structural design, everything is is done, taken care by the required consultants. It's not that something which we, like when you're doing projects like this is like a given. Like a tower cannot be designed without staircases, or they cannot be designed without the required number of lifts. So like how that is like a requirement, these parameters also like a given. Like nobody really compromises on those kind of parameters. But the MOEF is there basically as like a watchdog to see whether these parameters are being done or no. But I think most of the developers who are building these kind of complexes or high-rise buildings are doing much more than what the parameters of the high-rise committees come out with. So they are like doing even going to another level. So high-rise requirements are not something which you need to get scared about. And they are very basic, like the use of STP,
Right.
the water, all that is all that done. So it's not something which is like rocket science.
Right. Then I have two questions from the student, which is almost similar to each other. So one is, what is the context study for rehab people? I mean, for the rehab component or rehab structure, I guess. And secondly is how to deal with tall living lifestyle with architectural applications for those, rehab people. So,
See, there are two different views on this. Like the project which I showed you, the Nahar Excalibur project, which is at Sat Rasta. Now the people who were staying in like ground and one, ground and two shanty, not shanty, they were like very old kind of dilapidated buildings. So they had these aspirations of going into a new home, new facility, like a high-rise building with lifts, proper sanitation, proper infrastructure. So that aspirations are always there to move into something better. Having said that, like a 70-meter or a 20 storied building is not in any way like a high, it's not termed as like a high rise building. So it's not doesn't form any challenges or any kind of any way they have to modify their way of living. In fact, it's the other way around. The rehab always aspire to go from a two-storied building into a higher floors. There is once we did this design of the building, they have these lottery systems where they throw lottery and then they allocate the flat to the person who's going to use it. So there's a lottery system which is there, and after each one is allotted their flats, there are many who pay a premium to the higher floor guys, and then they move. Like suppose somebody wants like a couple of lakhs more, or they needs that money, he sells his higher floor apartment to somebody who wants to pay more to go to a shift to a higher floor. While the other guy is okay to go to the lower floor. So always there are aspiration of the end user going higher and higher. Even if you see like in most of these the interaction with end users who have bought flats in Vivaria, they are all wanting higher floors. Like higher floor is always a premium. So that was one of the reasons to go taller. And like it's like 250 meter building is not really like high. It's high, but it's not like to international standards where like you have a 500-meter tall building where you have where you are living on the top floor and you cannot open the windows. You are at in those kind of scenarios you are cut off from the real world. You don't hear the sound of traffic, you don't hear the sound of people. But here it's not the case. In fact, the higher floor you are still kind of connected to the ground. You hear the sound of the railway, hear the sound of the traffic. So when we say high rise, it's very different from the real meaning of high rise in other like cities like Shanghai or Chicago, where like 300 400 meter is like any residential building will be 300 400. Like the apartment
right.
the topmost floor of the apartment went for a premium. It was a triplex, was sold at thousands or 100 crores. So there was no there. So there's always more demand for people who want to stay on the higher floors versus people who want to stay on lower floors.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Any questions from the student? Any more questions? Okay. Okay, I don't think there is any more questions. So thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot. It was a wonderful experience for us and for the students to know the entire journey from the context to the final product. And student must have learned a lot from this presentation. Thanks on behalf of entire IES team, and thanks for the to Giri sir, Devang sir, Nikhil sir, Anuja ma'am for participating. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Anything else, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you, Pranav. It was a fantastic presentation. I really enjoyed
the presentation. I thought
it was to look at it and explain the philosophy that you expressed about your design philosophy and how you approach the projects. You explained in very lucid manner. The slides were beautiful to look at and self-explanatory to a great extent, and excellent work. Glad I was present today to look at it. Thank you.
Thanks, Girish.
Thank you, Pranav. I enjoyed the lecture thoroughly. Actually, I went back into nostalgia when I remember your work as a college student also. Very clear, very crisp, to the point. And just that addition of few things added to it makes it wonderful.
I myself have forgotten what I did in college.
Oh yeah, don't worry. We as juniors remember this thing very much. But what I enjoyed more was that you very nicely put out all aspects of design, and you topped it up with the fact that the detailing is as important, if not anything, other than of course the other aspects of social and construction and how you need to work out other complexities in this society. Many times in academics, you're very right, we tend to perhaps identify saying that design is important, look at design and reflect your ego and attitude on the building. But it's important in the real world to understand that it's not only that you are here for service, and you have to look at all points of society and then establish your design in that. So it's a complex process, and I think you have wonderfully achieved it in these tall building things. So thank you once again. I'm sure we will take this baton from here and take it through. And I'm sure there'll be some students who may look at wanting to do their thesis topic in tall buildings and high-rise. So let's look at see how it goes.
Thank you, Girish. Thanks a lot. Coverage.
I don't know. Parikshit, I think we can end up the thing. It's already 2 hours, 20 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone again. Yeah. Thanks students for participating. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Krish. Thank you, Devang. Thank you, Anuja.
Devang.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.